how do we know what boundaries we actually need in our life? That's what today's video is about. Stick around because we're going to dive into triggers, signs, indications that we may not be seeing that indicate that we need better boundaries, or maybe we need to lighten up on our boundaries. And we're also going to take a look at how to determine the domains in our life that we might be needing boundaries. Welcome to the channel. I'm Kim Marie. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you find this content super valuable. This channel is all about supporting women to feel or to find the empowered woman within them. Most of us know we have some level of this empowered, talented, capable being within us, and we keep finding ourselves a bit stuck. And so this channel is all about giving you tools for that. So be sure to subscribe, share it with others, let them know, and share in the comments, where are you struggling to set your boundaries? Or do you know what boundaries you need? Are you wondering if you need some boundaries? All right, I'd love to hear that. So the first thing we want to consider when we're trying to determine what boundaries do I need is looking at the domains of our life, right? Because it's not just a blanket statement of what boundaries do I need for life. We might need certain boundaries in our finances, or maybe our relationships, or maybe our spiritual life, or our work life. It all depends on the circumstances, right? If you're a person who, gets very tempted to spend beyond her means and struggles with that, then there might be this need to set certain boundaries where, you don't set yourself up to fail, so to speak. And you have to be more firm around the constraints or the container within which you operate your life financially in order to maintain what it is you're longing to create in your financial life. Similarly, maybe you've been brokenhearted in a relationship and you've kind of had really strong boundaries that have been a little too firm or structured or harsh, and because this fear of getting your heart broken or getting hurt, and you're starting to wonder, am I sure I even need those boundaries? Maybe I need to lighten up on those boundaries. Maybe I need to relax some of those boundaries, right? So looking at the different domains of our life is really important to look at and consider separately, because sometimes we need stronger boundaries in some areas, and sometimes we need less strong boundaries, perhaps no boundaries in others. I don't know that I can think of a single area of our life where we don't need some kind of boundaries, in the sense that I always say the river needs the riverbanks, right? We need structure. So boundaries are simply, the way I'm defining boundaries is that they're a structure for our lives, a way in which we can operate the flow of our life between those riverbanks, right? And so I'm not talking about shields or protection or, shutting people out or shutting ourselves away from things. I'm talking about being able to make decisions and determinations for the structure of our life through which we can flow, okay? So how do we know if we need to reevaluate our boundaries in any of those domains? Well, the first thing we can begin to ask is, where are you feeling stuck? Right? Where are you stuck in your life, right? Are you feeling always behind in your finances? Does that indicate that you need some different boundaries there? Are you feeling out of alignment with the work that you're doing? And maybe you're an entrepreneur and you keep taking on clients that just don't feel quite right. And you've been afraid to set some boundaries because, well, if I don't take them, then I don't get the income, and I really need that, or whatever it is. But the reality is, if we set the boundaries, it's kind of like creating that structure so that something more can flow through. When we set a boundary that says, I don't want to work with these types of clients, what ends up happening is we begin to open the door to the types of clients that we want to work with, right? I know my son, he does handyman work, and he's found that to be true, not just for the clients, but the types of work that he wants to do. He's like, okay, that's it. I'm not doing this kind of work, or I'm not doing that kind of work again, or this is the kind of work I really want to make sure I open my door to, right? And so we need to be evaluating that based on, where are we feeling stuck, in the sense that things just don't feel like they're flowing the way that we want them to, right? Things don't feel like they're moving the way that we want them to, in which case we might want to reconsider our boundaries. That's when we know we probably need some boundaries or need to lighten up on some boundaries is when we're feeling stuck in our life, okay? Another area that we can consider is you can ask yourself, where in your life are you feeling ignored, taken advantage of, maybe interrupted all the time, or thwarted in your process? That might be a situation where boundaries are called for. I know for myself, I work at home, and it's a challenge. Any of us that work from home know that it's easy for people to come knocking on the door unannounced. It's easy for children to interrupt you. It's easy for people to think that you're not really doing anything because you're just working at home, right? You're not going to an office every day. So there can be this need to set boundaries around your work life. These are the hours I'm working. Please don't call me during that time. Please don't come to my door during that time. Please don't interrupt me during that time. That's a boundary that needs to be set. So you can look at, and then like maybe in a relationship, if you're feeling like you're being taken for granted or taken advantage of, right? Somebody's just always asking you to help them out, always needing your help, always longing for your advice or guidance or something like that. Sometimes you just have to set a boundary and say, I can't do that. I have to focus on my work. And again, it might connect to your work, or it might simply connect to what kinds of relationships you want to focus on and where you want to put your attention, right? So this question of, where are these things happening? Where are you feeling thwarted? Where are you feeling... This is a little bit different than feeling stuck. This might be where you're noticing emotionally, gosh, I'm just feeling really ignored here. I'm feeling taken advantage of. I'm feeling taken for granted. And I need to set some clear boundaries of what I will and won't tolerate in my life, right? And that's super, super important for relationships. And so if you're feeling some of those things, that's usually an indicator that you need some new boundaries, okay? Another area where you can probably guarantee that you're needing some boundaries of some sort, or to change your boundaries, is when you're seeing that something in your life has to change. You might not even know exactly what it is, but maybe some of those other questions, like where am I stuck, where am I being ignored or taken advantage of, or that kind of thing, they can help you set some boundaries that begin to help you see what needs to change, right? Or even those questions might be part of what needs to change. And you're noticing that, okay, I'm working super long hours, and what needs to change is that I need to set an earlier bedtime for myself. I need to make sure I'm getting a certain number of hours of sleep. I need to make sure that I'm getting the opportunity to move my body and rejuvenate and energize myself so that I'm not feeling so depleted all the time, right? That's where you might notice something has to change. I can't keep feeling this way. Maybe there's healthy habits videos that I've shared that are really great insights on ways of making some changes that they do require boundaries. A lot of times, like I know for me, when I finally decided to eliminate sugar from my diet, for example, I was having those, I called it the 3 o'clock slump. Right around 3 o'clock, I would just kind of feel like I was crashing and I didn't have any more energy. And that doesn't happen for me anymore. And I really attribute that to me setting boundaries for myself around what I will and won't eat, for example, or when I will and won't eat, things like that. And that has made a huge difference in my life. So that's what you can be looking at, is what needs to change. Like, that you don't want to have that 3 o'clock slump, or that you don't want to have those kinds of relationships or those kinds of experiences, or maybe this kind of environment, or wherever it is that you're operating in your life, and that something has to change. It's time for a change. I have clients that are making big moves in their lives, and sometimes it's a big move physically, moving across the country or to another country, and sometimes it's just a big move emotionally or situationally or vocationally, and something has to change, but it's not going to change unless you're willing to set those boundaries, right? And the final piece that I want to share here is that boundaries are what help us operate in the realm of time, space, and flow, okay? When we set boundaries, it might be around our time, the way that our time unfolds, the way that we spend our time and use our time, right? It might be around space. who and where we spend our time and what is in proximity to us and the environment that we have around us. There might be boundaries needed there. And then the flow, the boundary of flow in terms of what works to keep me in flow, like maybe those, hours of sleep or opportunity for movement and things like that. That's usually the realms in which we can be looking at, what's impacting our time, what's impacting our space, what's impacting our flow that requires maybe a reset on our boundaries, either boundaries that need to be set or boundaries that need to be relaxed and released. So I hope that helps. Share in the comments, what boundaries have you noticed, or what areas of your life around time, space, or flow in particular, where do you notice some things being off that might need some boundaries? I love to hear from you. I love engaging in the comments and sharing thoughts and adding extra tips and value as much as I can. And if you liked this, be sure to subscribe, share it with others, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.